Hey friends, we need to talk. We need to really talk. Now, there has to be a period when the party stops. There has to be a period when the party stops. Now, don't shoot the messenger. I'm sorry if I've come along and I burst your bubble. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. Now, some folks never made some money. Some folks made a bit of money. And some folks lost everything. This is the game we chose to play. Now, I'm going to go through the bull case and the bear case. I did get some backlash from the video that I made right over here, ladies and gentlemen. This video, I recorded this video on the assumption that I hope it never comes true. No word of a lie. This is it. God strike me down. This is the only content I made regarding this. God strike me down. I have my thesis. I try not to flip-flop. I have my thesis and I stick to it. But the charts kept on saying again and again that we are heading into a bear market. I didn't want to upload this. I really didn't want to upload this because I didn't want to admit to myself that we've been in a bear market since June 2025. And I'm going to show you the bull case and the bear case for each and every one. I'm going to start off with something very simple, something very simple. I'm going to show you this on the larger time frame. I'm going to show you on the 6-month time frame. Every time Bitcoin has closed red on the 6-month time frame, that has categorically been a bear market. Here is one example, very clear and easy to see, very clear. Then we had a drawdown, another one. 6-month red candle, very easy to see. 6-month red candle followed by another 6-month candle and another one. Then we had green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 monthly green candles followed by a red monthly candle. That was a bear market. Another one, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, followed by red candles. That was a bear market. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the longest streak, guys. This is the weekly. I'm going to make this very simple. I've shown you the golden support. I made a whole tutorial about the golden support. Every single time we have entered underneath the golden support, it's been a bear market. Every single time. Underneath the golden support, bear market. Underneath the golden support, it is a bear market. Underneath the golden support, it's a bear market. Hold on. I'm not finished. Pay attention now. I'm going to show you this now. This is the 50-day moving average. And I said this very clearly to everyone. I said, if we close 2 weekly closes underneath the 50-day moving average, that's a wrap. The party has ended. Let me repeat. The party has ended. I got some good news. Don't worry, I got some good news. Then we have here, right over here, 1, 2 weekly closes. The party has ended. Again, 1, 2 weekly closes. Party has ended. I can keep going. 1, 2, party has ended. You see this? Let me change the color for this. Let me change the color and make it red. Okay. Let me show you charts that have nothing to do with crypto. These are Chinese stocks. Watch this. Just please bear with me, yeah? These are Chinese stocks. Same rules apply. The minute we have 2 weekly closes above the 50-day moving average, it's a bull market. The minute we have 2 weekly closes underneath the 50-day moving average, it's a bear market. And we head back to the 50-day moving average to test it again. The psychology is buyers step back in, pushing up the prices, thinking that it's the bottom, but it's not. It retests the 50-day moving average and we continue into a bear market. Ethereum, every time we close 2 weeks underneath the 50-day moving average, it's a bear market. This is simple, easy, TA. I cannot emphasize how important this really is. Some of your favorite people are telling you that this is just a correction. That's fine. If we hold above the 50-day moving average, above it for 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, it's a continuation of a bull market. But every time we've held underneath the 50-day moving average, that's the end of the party. Now, the good news is there's going to be a rip your face off rally. This always happens. Always happens. It's the last hurrah. It's the last goodbye This is what we call a dead cat bounce. 2021, we broke down. Once we broke down, we bounced from here. Dead cat bounce, formed a higher high. Right over here, ladies and gentlemen. Broke down, shows over here. Dead cat bounce. We were meant to go down. Instead, we were hit with a curveball. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was an ultimate rejection. This period right over here is Wyckoff distribution. This is the Wyckoff distribution. We had BC, ST, UT, UTAD, followed by LPSY, and then lastly followed by ALP again. This is the Wyckoff distribution. The mother of all rallies, the rip your face off rally, happened right over here at the 100-day moving average and bounced 40% from here to here. Likewise, we're going to bounce on the 100-day moving average, and we're going to bounce all the way to the 50-day moving average. If you want to exit, this is certainly not the best time to exit. It's at 11. Fear and greed index is at 11. It's the lowest we've seen this cycle, but it's not the lowest during a bear market. In a bear market, we stay at extreme fear for the whole cycle. For the whole bear market, we stay at extreme fear. We're going to see a rally to around the green and yellow line. Bitcoin is heading to 104,000 US dollars and then head back down. Just like we saw right over here. Kissed it, couldn't hold it, and then finally came back down. And then the golden support was turned negative right over here. In 6 months' time, Bitcoin will be lower than the prices we are seeing today. I'm going to explain another thing. This cycle was different. We never ever got euphoria. Matter of fact, retail never came. They never ever came. If Bitcoin went to 200,000 US dollars, they couldn't care. They couldn't care because of the ISM. This is the ISM, and it's currently sitting at 48. It's the longest streak underneath 50 in all of history. In all of history. Every time we've been underneath 50 is a sign that Main Street is struggling. And every time we've been above 50, that means Main Street is doing very, very well. If I overlay others' dominance and the ISM, you can tell very clearly that every time we've peaked, ladies and gentlemen, it's marked the top, and that is altcoin season. Every time we mark the top, it's altcoin season. This cycle, retail are not even here. They're nowhere near here. Matter of fact, dominance is making new historical lows, close to the 2021 pandemic lows. As a result, we never ever saw euphoria. We headed straight to complacency. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we skipped complacency, we passed anxiety, and we're in the early stages of panic. The good news is we're gonna see a rip your face off rally, like the mother of all rallies, ladies and gentlemen, is going to happen very shortly. In a bear market, the rallies are way more vicious. They're way more vicious. They spike really, really hard because the psychology behind that is that people want to make back them gains. So what they do is they pile in. They really pile in to these long positions. However, we've seen this before. I know some of you have been here for a very long time and you all know how this works. Some of you are taking profits. Some of you might just continue to diamond hand. That's fine. Everyone has their own financial journey. I have my own financial journey. You also have your own financial journey. I've seen this play out many, many times, ladies and gentlemen. The closest resemblance is right over here, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the early innings of a bear market. Now, from here to there, we went up a massive 40 to 50% pump. Bitcoin could see a massive pump, huge pump from the very wick to around 102,000 US dollars. That's a 30% increase. Ethereum, same thing applies. Ethereum is going to see a massive rally. Like I said, that's why I kept on buying and buying and buying. I knew we're going to see a rip your face off rally. I'm going to show you another thing. I'm being very objective, guys. All right. I don't make money from none of you. I don't even care about views. I don't care about none of that. You can follow my journey, If I'm right, I'm wrong, whatever. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the RSI. Now with the RSIs, sometimes it's not useful, but sometimes it's extremely useful. Extremely useful. Now, right over here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you from the beginning of time. The first cycle was in 2013. RSIs went to 98. Okay. Then we had a drop down of, I think, around 60%, 70%. Okay. And then we had another pump. RSI went all the way to 97, had another bear market of 87%. Okay. Show's over. When the RSIs get to really elevated areas, that means buyers are exhausted. They can't buy no more. They just can't buy no more. That's it. The party's over, unfortunately. Another time we had the RSI right over here, 89, 90. Buyers are exhausted now. They're exhausted. Price went all the way to 20,000 US dollars. It has to reset. The market has to heal and reset. It went down 83%. Again, we had RSIs at elevated areas of 95, ladies and gentlemen. And then the market went sideways. Okay, we formed slightly higher highs, but predominantly RSIs were forming higher lows. It's the end of the road, and that's it. That's all she wrote, and we headed back down. Again, I'm going to show you something very powerful. This is the monthly. With the monthly, every single cycle, we form lower highs. As you can see, we form lower highs. And then as you can see right over here, ladies and gentlemen, we kept on bouncing, and then finally we broke down. And then right over here, we bounced a few times. Okay, as you can see, we bounced here, boom, bounced again, boom, and then finally we broke down. Party's over. DXY, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to overlay Bitcoin. We've been here. All of us have been here before. Let's not act all surprised now. The dollar reversed right over here. And then went all the way up to around, the dollar went up to around 110. Okay, 110. This is the dollar and this is Bitcoin. The dollar has bottomed. Let's have a look at gold. Gold, like I said many times, will be the second best performing asset after silver. Like my friend keeps reminding me, it's going to head up higher. 2026 is going to head up higher. Guys, there is nowhere to hide regarding gold and SPX. This is gold divided by SPX. And right now, gold has bottomed. It has bottomed compared to SPX. Right over here in 1971, we formed a bottom. Right here during the dot-com period, we bottomed. And right over here, ladies and gentlemen, during 2025, we have bottomed against SPX. It's heading up higher. Next area is right over here. You could argue and make the assumption that basically we're in a massive parallel channel, and we will probably peak over here, ladies and gentlemen, or over here. I want to be bullish forever and ever, but one day the music has to stop. The music has to stop, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about Tau and this $90. I'm early, but I'm hardly wrong. My friend, I said, just wait around. Wait for a while. You're going to see your $90. It wicked to $140. And you know, I've said this in my channel for so long now. We always follow the wick. Tau is heading down 47%. And I'm giving you a price, guaranteed price of $140. Put your limit orders there. It's only $50 difference between 90 and 140. If you like to at around $5, well, you might like it more at 57 cents. If you liked Psy at around $1.10, well, you might love it at 7 cents. If you liked Jupiter at around $2, well, you might love Jupiter at 5 cents. Polkadot. If you liked Polkadot at around $50, you might love it at $1.50. Osama, same thing. If you liked Aave at around $600, well, you might love it at $83. You get the picture? We're heading to the Wicks. All of it. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules, my friend. I wish the total market cap was at 10 trillion like they sold it to us. I wish it was the case. However, it's been mainly a Bitcoin-led cycle. Ethereum is doing relatively well, while the rest of the market is on its knees. This is the total market cap, everything. Yeah, and we're going to look at the RSIs as well. Every time we peaked around this area, okay, we get to around 1993, we get to 1995, and over here we got to 91. We formed every single time. Lower highs, and then finally we capitulated to this area. You buy at this area, you buy at this area, and then finally you buy at these lower areas of 26. Simple as that. RSIs are getting weaker and weaker, which means buyers are exhausted. Let me speak about one thing that bulls speak about. They always speak about this, and they speak about the money printer. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the money printer, and let's talk about interest rate cuts. Let's really delve into that. Okay. We're gonna do traditional markets. Okay. We're gonna do SPX. We're gonna overlay this with interest rates. Okay. Let's start off with that. I'm just gonna show you hardcore data. That's all I'm going to show you. Okay. And I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to go all the way back to around the 1970s and beyond. 1974, interest rates were cut all the way down to 4%. They were around 13%. Markets crashed. Okay. Again, inflation came back in 1981. Paul Volcker, he had to increase interest rates to 19.89%. And then he cut interest rates, markets went down. So he cut interest rates from here to here. Okay. The first time he cut interest rates, markets dropped down 50%. Again, from here to here, he cut again. Markets went down 27%. And this took around 2 years. 2 years. Okay. Let's go again. Let's look at interest rate cuts. Right over here, interest rates were around 10%. We were from here, interest rates cut, markets dropped 20%. In 2 years again. In a year and a half, markets dropped. We're going to show you some more interest rate cuts right over here. This is in 2001 period. We had interest rate cuts, massive interest rate cuts, and markets went down 50%, sorry. Interest rate cuts, we went down a whopping 56%. Every time we have interest rate hikes, ladies and gentlemen, markets do swimmingly well. We go up the wall of worry. The minute they come down, ladies and gentlemen, what happens? We go down. So all the bulls are praying for interest rate cuts, but they don't understand it's a catch-22. The minute they do interest rate cuts, ladies and gentlemen, that means there's a problem in the economy. Number two, everyone's waiting for QE, but the minute they do QE is when we're in a recession. So ultimately, prices have to go much lower before we get interest rate cuts and QE. We need to have a recession or a recessionary fear. S&P 500 currently, right now, we had interest rate hikes. And what happened? Markets went up. In 2024, they started interest rate cuts. If we have more interest rate cuts, ladies and gentlemen, that means the economy is sick. Matter of fact, you actually want them to hold for longer. Bitcoin is a very early asset. It's a very early asset. As you can see, it's only been here for around 15, 17 years. Okay. So with Bitcoin, it's a bit different. Macro didn't apply to Bitcoin because we were such a small asset class. But right now you can tell that interest rate hikes were actually a good thing for Bitcoin. The minute we got interest rate cuts right over here, ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin was moving sideways. If we get further interest rate cuts, well, that's the beginning of the end. Matter of fact, if you're a Bitcoiner, you want them to hold for longer. The only reason governments around the world actually cut is to stimulate the economy. The economy is sick. The only reason they print is because the economy is sick and they want to stimulate the economy. They learned the lessons during 1929 when you need to stimulate the economy, or else we're going to be in a depression for a very, very long time. This is one of the OGs of the channel. Big him up, big him up. He's one of the day one followers. Much respect, love you. So it says every bull cycle, there are periods of massive declines with multiple bearish indicators. 2025, 2021, it went 55% down, then rallied to all-time new highs. You're crying wolf for a 33% dip. Any preschooler with a calculator could have saw this coming. I warned you of it in the comments a month ago. I could go on about this entire cycle not having a parabolic run. I could go on about this entire cycle has been off with no parabolic all-time highs for 90% of alts, whereas the wider retail, liquidity injection, institutional startups that attract massive capital from retail then disappear. For example, Mt. Gox, etc., etc., etc. A bull market dies on euphoria. Your own words. Where was the euphoria? You are completely right. We never, ever, ever saw euphoria, which means the bear market will not be that deep. For us to see euphoria, you need excess leverage, you need mania. To see a hard, vicious retracement, you need leverage, you need FOMO, you need retail. That never happened. So my base case is that we won't see a massive downturn. But ultimately, I hate to say it, I hope I'm wrong. But in 6 months' time, Bitcoin will be lower. It's currently sitting at 84,000. In 6 months' time, it will probably be at around 75, guys. I pose a question to everyone. When will you say the party's done? When? Are you going to wait for a 90% retracement? A winter is a 90% drop for a prolonged period, typically years. This is recess. You should know this. If you've been in the space for 10 years, I'm going to answer that question. We've been in a bear market since 2021. Since 2021, we've been in a bear market. A bull market is when you form a new higher high. Okay, that's a bull market. Crypto has been in a bear market since 2021, ladies and gentlemen. Here is another chart. We made a pathetic high in March 2024. We made another pathetic high in November 2024. We've been in a bear market since 2021. Link, been in a bear market. Stacks had its bull market, made an all-time new high in 2024. It superseded its high in 2021. Optimism, it's a new coin, made an all-time new high in NEAR, it's an older coin. Never, ever, ever, ever made an all-time new high. Never. It's been in a bear market for 1,421 days. You do the maths. It went down by 91%. So where is your invalidation point? There's got to be a period where we say that the bull market's over. Some coins haven't made all-time highs since our own .com period, which was in 2021. Now, yes, there are new coins out there, and there's going to be billions of new coins. That's fine. But majority haven't made all-time highs since COVID. And we're about to make new lows since COVID. Look at this. We wicked below the COVID lows. We're heading to 2019. And the dominance has been down for 1,421 days. Now, I understand this is not just crypto. In traditional stocks, medium to small caps look like this as well. In traditional stocks, the only thing that is doing really well is the Mag 7. The Mag 7 is holding this entire market up. 20% of the S&P 500 is in one company, Nvidia. So I'm not here to bash anyone. But we are in a K-shaped economy, meaning the Mag 7 is doing remarkable, and the lower caps to medium caps are doing very poorly. I really don't make up the rules. And that's why I said gold and silver will be the best performing asset of this year. Just to conclude, we're in denial, heading into panic, then capitulation. Don't shoot the messenger. Please don't shoot the messenger. We are in a bear market, and that means this is a great opportunity to become filthy rich. We were buying right over here at the very, very lows at around 15,000 US dollars. Okay. Bitcoin went up to a massive 126,000 US dollars. That's a nice, healthy gain. We bought around 15 to 20,000 US dollars in Bitcoin. Went all the way up to 125,000 US dollars. That's a beautiful 7 to 8x return. Now, the real money is made in bear markets. We're heading down. It might not be as steep. The previous bear market lasted for 365 days and it went down 78%. The other bear market from here to here went down roughly 82%, lasted for 365 days. And then again from here to there, lasted around 365 days. This is going to be the best opportunity of your life. Mistakes were made, misallocations of funds were made. It's fine. What really matters in this space is Bitcoin and Ethereum. We've also been covering on this channel Bitcoin treasury companies. MicroStrategy, like we said this, okay, I know sometimes participants have selective hearing. But we also said if this goes below 1, then it's over. I don't know what else I can say. We were following this when it was around 2.20. It's under 1. I say this because history often rhymes. This is Grayscale, and its premium was 80. At the very end of the bull cycle, it went negative, and that was the beginning of the end. I think Bitcoin was around 69,000 US dollars. This is MicroStrategy right here. We formed a blow-off top in 2021, followed by a right shoulder in November 2021. This cycle, from wick to trough, you can go down by 89% to $60. I'm gonna buy a boatload of MicroStrategy at $60. During a bull run, MicroStrategy went up 40x. It was about to be listed in the S&P 500. If I get a fractal from here to here and I place it, if I place a fractal from the previous cycle to now, it looks almost identical. Almost identical. Lastly, we haven't even got capitulation from the miners. There are more selling pressures. In a bear market, the only reason why it goes down is because there are more sellers than buyers. This chart right over here is the hash ribbon. It shows you miners' capitulation rates. They capitulated in 2024, June. And then, smartly, they took profits this time. There's a lot of miners waiting to sell, and they normally sell at the very bottoms. Back in 2021, the bulls said the same thing, said the exact same thing. They said, MicroStrategy is here, and he's going to buy a boatload of Bitcoin. They said companies are here. They said billionaires are here, and they were right. Companies were buying. However, we still had a vicious bear market. The same thing applies. They're saying we have companies, institutions, governments, sovereign banks, sovereign nations, sovereign this, and they are right. But we still had a bear market. Honestly, it's a hard pill to swallow for even myself. It's a hard pill to swallow. You can follow someone else that will confirm your bias while your wallet and your funds continue to go down and down, and convince yourself that I'm going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years or whatnot. But life happens. There's going to be periods where you might have to sell. Okay, maybe something goes wrong, something happens in your life where you need the funds, God forbid, and you just sell. Or you can preserve your money and buy back at lower prices. That's all I'm saying. Protect your purchasing power.